with this, we have been graced by the presence of Professor A.P. Pandey sir, fountainhead of illuminating ideas, former Vice Chancellor, Manipur Central University, as Conference President, and Honorable Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi sir as invited speaker from IIFT New Delhi, Director IIPM Bangalore. Professor Ravindra Rana, our seasoned scholar from DUT Business School, Durban University of Technology, Durban, South Africa, is also our invited speaker, along with Shri Arun Kumar Tyagi sir, an inspiring personality from Dehradun, respected Professor Jasbir Singh sir, Professor of Economics from Jammu University, will give his observations on the topic, along with highly lauded, esteemed Professor Indu Vashne ma'am, Principal, SRDA Girls PG College, Hathras. Small cheer and great welcome makes a merry feast, said William Shakespeare. I very humbly beseech highly lauded, inspiring personality, Dr. A.K. Tomar sir, Chief Conference Coordinator, a veteran in the field of education, ex-principal, DS College, Aligarh. Sir has battled against all odds and reached at the pinnacle of success. Sir, kindly welcome the galaxy of intellectuals present amongst us, Honorable A.K. Tomar sir. Please.
Are you audible?
Yes, sir, audible.
Hello?
Yes, audible, sir, audible.
Thank you, madam. Thank you,
Namaskar,
sir. Thank you, sir.
namaskar.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार सबको, सर आप सभी को अपने में उपस्थित हैं सर, सभी हमारे प्रेसिडेंट सर, करता हूँ, अभिनंदन करता हूँ। तो हमारे कॉन्फ्रेंस प्रेसिडेंट हैं और जो सेमिनार सेमिनार के उनका भी मैं वेलकम करता हूँ, उनका स्वागत करता हूँ, अभिनंदन करता हूँ। और इस सभागार में, इस सदन में, इस हाउस में जो भी उपस्थित हैं, इन सभी का प्रोफेसर राकेश मोहन जोशी जी, प्रोफेसर रवि रैना सर, प्रोफेसर जसवीर
Dr. Tomar, you are not audible.
Sir, actually, there was some problem in the network. Shall I continue, sir?
You just continue.
There was some network issues.
You welcome all the dignitaries. You can do it. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, it is a matter of great honor and privilege for me to entreat Professor Ghanshyam N. Singh sir, a seasoned scholar from Magadh University, Gaya, President of Indian Economic Association, and eminent expert, dedicated global personality for his disquisition. Honorable Ghanshyam, Professor Ghanshyam N. Singh sir, please. Sir, you are not audible.
Okay? And all our friends. Well, before we start our deliberation, I would like to thank the organizer, particularly my own team of Professor Tomar, Professor D.K. Asthana, Indu Varshney, Monica, and all that, who framed, who all the time during the vacation also, during when we were in the break, they participated, they always organize interactive sessions. This session is particularly important in the view of the fact that it has chosen a subject which is quite contemporary and very relevant also. The subject that has been chosen is very rightly India-China economic relation, challenges and opportunities. Well, if you discuss the India-China relation, then you will see that it is a very fragile situation, fragile relation between the two countries. India has always shown a generosity. Generosity in the sense, whenever opportunity came, it gave a space to China. But China, unfortunately, a video has been exported for years. But China, unfortunately, has not responded positively. India was the first country that on April 1, 1950, it became the first non-socialist partner of socialist bloc who recognized China and who established a diplomatic relation. But not only that, when an opportunity came, when India was to be seated, India was to be given a place at the Security Council of UNO, it declined, it offered the seat to China. It proved very fatal for India, for the world also, because China did not respond the way it was expected from India and elsewhere. First thing that comes in our mind is India has got a very fragile relation with China because of the fact that geopolitical situation is very conflicting. And the ambition of China is so high, expressionist, imperialist, and all that, that it always claims the part of Arunachal, the part of Shai China, that is in Tibet and all here, and they made it very difficult for Indian government to establish a rapport which is more congenial to both the countries. So, under these circumstances, we say we have got the opportunity, lot of opportunity between the two, because India is a young country in the sense India as population has gone very high. Even it surpassed the China also recently, might have seen it. But that is not the point. The point is that India is young. Young means it is very active. It can be a very active participant of the development, but development has to be supported by its initiating partner. And China is not responding that way. That is that is not good for the world also. Well, China has got, in fact, it is more a challenge than that of an opportunity. Opportunity was to establish it because in 2050, India is going to be a third largest growing economy of the world. But China is not doing the way it should do. It should have a relation, mutual relation, cooperation of development and all that. And I'm happy that our team, with that of the speaker, what we call, just a minute, Rakesh Mohan. I remember to have his interaction. Second interaction this time will be. First interaction was at Baleshwar, when he associated himself with our big fraternity of Indian Economic Association. And fortunately, he has he has become a very strong, he has started a strong rapport with the Indian Economy Association, participate the second time on this national conclave. So in the case of Professor Ravinder Rena, I do not remember to have interacted with him earlier, but he is participating here, and I'm happy that our team has chosen a team of experts of all over the country to discuss the issue which need to be discussed, which has provoked the mind of the people and economists all over the country. Well, I just say, I hope that our team will discuss. This team of interactive session will discuss all the issues which are pending and it throw light as to how these challenges which are facing India and China, geopolitical and diplomatic and all that, that may be overcome and may establish a rapport or may smoothen the economic relation between the two countries. Opportunities are there, and that opportunity has to be exploited in a various way. And it is like clapping with the two hands. If China doesn't cooperate, the way India is giving it, you see, Panchashil was one of the thing which Nehru initiated, though that was fatal. India-China has got a conflict, and the conflict in a very adverse situation. And this is not the end of that. Today, every day they change their stand, and this is the great challenge to have a good relation between them. With these words, I request the honorable speakers here to participate in the deliberation and throw light on the issue which may enlighten our, we may increase our knowledge, the knowledge of the young Indian economists who may be a participant. Thank you very much. Once again, I express my thanks to the team that is called Rakesh Mohan, Avindarana, and last but not the least, my own team with A.K. Tomar, D.K. Asthana, Indu Varshne, Monica Varshne, and all that who are doing thank you to participate in the deliberation. I wish, though I'm happy, I'm sorry that for nearly a month I was out from the social media because of the fact that I was out to a place where internet connectivity was not so good. As a result of which I was not in, and I'm happy that my first interaction with this IEA fraternity today is with this conclave, which is discussing the issue more important for the academic, more important for the young scholars that may grow up and that may give a message to the nation, to the world, that India and China can be a good friend, provided both China can respond the way we should respond diplomatically or economically. Thank you very much. With these words, I wish you all the best and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your illuminating words. Your words were very insightful and judicious. Your address has been sagacious. You acknowledged the contribution of the members of Indian Economic Association and focused on China's negative attitude and its unexpected responses in different matters. So, due to which it is difficult for India to develop a good relation with China because of its attitude. Thank you so much, sir. Your address has been very fascinating. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, sir. Today, we have been honored by the dignified presence of Honorable Professor A.P. Pandey sir from Magadh University, Bodh Gaya, Conference President and Vice Chancellor, Manipur University, Manipur, well-known name in the matters related to economics. The fragrance of flowers spreads only in the direction of the wind, but the knowledge of a person spreads in all directions. I very earnestly implore Professor A.P. Pandey sir to enlighten us with his utterance. Professor A.P. Pandey sir, please.
Thank you, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. And respected madam, respected Professor A.K. Tomar Sahab, D.K. Asthana Sahab, Professor Ghanshyam Singh Ji, our President of IEA, and Dr. Indu Vasne Ji, Monica Ji, and our special dignitaries today for this lecture, Rakesh Mohan Joshi Ji and Professor Rabindra Rana Ji, other dignitaries in the who are participating in this seminar. It's a very relevant topic at present, especially when there is some how a different type of relations in India and China. As we know, with the established coming to the power in 1949, when Communist Party of India came to the power, the relations between India and China were disturbed. Prior to that, what I feel, there was very good relation with India and China. And as we know that during this Second World War, at that time, British India and China came together to stop imperialism of the Japan. That was very important. And also, we know Silk Road for spreading trade and also for spreading culture, especially Buddhism. From India to China, it was very important route, what you say. That was very important and popular at one time. And but when Communist Party came to the power, these so many disturbances started. And although India always tried to have a good relation with the China, because India and China being two giant economic powers of Asia as well as of the world, it was highly needed that their relation should be good, and they can do a lot of good things to control the peace of the world, and also they can be a very good partner for trade. And as we know, their trade is still there is trade is going on between them, and India is very much positive towards the relation with the China. But as our President Professor Ghanshyam Singh told that India is always trying to have a good relation with the China, but China is not in a mood to have it. That is the main problem. So far as I know, that I told that India and China they are two giants of the Asia and also of the world, and their progress is also tremendous. We can say they are progressing very fast. And on the 1st April 1950, India is the first non-socialistic bloc country to establish diplomatic relations with Republic of China. On 18 July 1994, a double taxation agreement was signed between these two countries. As per WTO commitments, they also showed their interest for multilateral trade system. That is very important. And with this, they again come to this in very prominent position. Today, they are the top trading partners. This is very important. Although there is some tense relations between China and India, but still today, they are the top trading partners. This, although this may be contradictory, but this is the real situation. During April-November 2022, trade between India and China was $77.82 billion. In 2022, trade was $86.39 billion, and it reached to $115.83 billion. That is with growth of 34%. So we can say that this is a good situation for any country that their trade is increasing. In 2020, India became largest trade partner with China. From 2017-18 to 2021-22, Sino-India trade increased 29% from $89.72 million to $115 billion. India exported 4,496 commodities to China in financial year 21. That include petroleum, ore, slag, ash, organic chemicals, so many things. And in April to November 22, India exported so this 3,807 items. So this is 8,807 items. So it is also on the increasing rate. India reported 7,005 commodities from China. And during April-October 2022, which is of $67.9 billion, it includes electronic items, computer, hardware, so many things. So even intense situation, trade is going on. And now new development bank has also been established, which has office in Shanghai, and it has been established in India near Gujarat International Finance Tech City, and they are financing nearly 19 projects of India with $6.92 billion. This is up to 31st August 2022. So more than 100 Chinese companies have opened offices in the India, and from 2015 to 2022, bilateral trade in India and China grew by 90%. Although this was increasing, but in 2021, this trend was decreased, and again in 2022, it decreased. This may be due to Doklan and other things. So I think if India and China are good on their border, and if China maintains the peace, I think they can do a lot of good things in the economic area. And what I feel that with the interference of China in Tibet and with so many other things, because they acquired some area in Kashmir with the help of Pakistan also. So all these things, if they can do something good, I think India and China can prove to be a very good partner in the economic field, and they can increase their economic power as well as other powers also, because economy is the most important, and America is heading the whole world due to this strong economic power. And I think India and China has got good potential if they can be a good partners and also good neighbors. With this view, I once again thank you all for giving me the chance to express my views, some views regarding Indo-China relations. And I hope with the effort of the IA personalities, our this journey will continue. Thank you all for giving me chance and participating in this seminar. Thank you.
Outstanding, great presentation. You very nicely discussed about the history of India-China relations, which underwent different phases. India always tried to have good relations with China, but China did not cooperate. We are grateful to you, sir, for your insightful address. Your talk will be a guiding torch for us all. Very informative, well organized, wonderful presentation, sir. And I want to thank you once more for abiding to the time limit. You have presented your address in a stipulated time period. Thank you so much for that, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Among us today, we have an inspiring personality, Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, sir, from IIFT New Delhi. Respected sir is Director, Indian Institute of Plantation Management, Bangalore. Sir has an ability to make connections, associations, and to turn things around and express them in a new way. I take ardent pleasure to invite Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, sir, for his address. Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, sir, please.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta ji, for for this nice introduction and inviting me. Acha, one thing is, please give me the access to upload my slide, which is getting denied. Just check from your computer. Acha, I am highly grateful to Professor Professor Ghanshyam Singh Saab and Professor E.P. Pandey Saab, Professor Tomar Saab, Professor Asthana ji, Professor Ravinder ji, and I think a distinguished professor we have got Professor Jasbir ji, Dr. Indu ji, Dr. Prabha ji, Dr. Monika ji, so many great people around. So I'm highly grateful to each one of you for inviting me for this wonderful and prestigious presentation this evening on a very interesting topic of Indo-China. I think I have extensively written in the national newspapers on Indo-China. So what I will like to, and we were very fortunate to have Professor Ghanshyam Singh Saab and Professor Pandey Saab, who have given us a very background on the political, socio-political and economic dynamics between India and China, which I think the younger generation will find it difficult to find otherwise, because India and China both are not only the ancient civilization, but once upon a time, during I think Professor Singh and Professor Pandey has given a great perspective that China was supported by America and British against the imperialistic forces of Germany and the Japan, which I think the people in the modern day will not know. And India also had a relationship with that time is the Chiang Kai-shek, which had to go from China to Taiwan and then Taiwan became a different country. So I think that's all a history, but I'm, so happy to learn that, we have got so great speakers who have given this thing. Now, I think let me go to my presentation. And if you see the presentation, I would like to, yes. The presentation, I will like, can you see the presentation now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes,
We
sir.
can see it.
Oh, अभी इसको देखते हैं देखो. So what we do is that my presentation is would give you the contemporary issues with the China and India China economic aspects only. So I think I will try to focus on the economic issues or the contemporary economic issues, what are the things going on. But as I think the Honorable Professor Singh and Honorable Professor Pandeji has given a because they also have got experience to be near the China border in Arunachal Pradesh. And if you see, the Arunachal Pradesh is a place which the China still considered the part of their territory. I was in Arunachal Pradesh very recently, and I think he has been for a long, so he knows better than me. So anyway, let me go on the economic relations. Number one, that India is incredible, the China is as well. If you look into the both are the most ancient civilization, and if you see the most ancient records of the Indian civilization, you find in the visits of the Chinese traveler Wen Sang and Faiyan, who came to India, wherein and I think these are considered to be the most authentic historical record of this era. India has been home not only to goods and services which we export today, but India has been home to exporting three of the world's most important religion, Buddhism and Jainism, which were almost contemporary, say 2500, 2600 years before. And then India also exported Sikhism across. When the ancient Chinese civilization, when it comes to religion, it starts with Buddhism. And if you go to any part of China, you find is, the Buddhist temples, Buddhism. It was only after when the communism came in China, they said that, the people should not practice a religion because the communism believed, like in China and, Russia as well. So, I think the most Buddhist temples were destroyed, or, like the churches were destroyed in Russia. And then I think most people in China now you find are the atheist one. But I think lately they have allowed some Buddhism, and some churches have also come. So both most ancient civilization, and we enjoy the great socio-culture, and the India enjoys more socio-culture and the geographical diversity like China as well. But if you see the India's diversity in terms of compared to China is much greater, because India, if you see that we have got 27 languages under the Indian Constitution. China more or less Cantonese or the Chinese is a language with certain variation, but I think the script in China across China remains the same. But in India, we work in the places of a very differential script. Incidentally, presently, I am based in Bangalore. So I think the script of the southern languages are very different than another, and we have got so many languages. So we have more cultural diversity. We also have got a diversity in terms of our cuisine, in terms of our, religious beliefs, in terms of linguistic beliefs, and multi more. So this is one thing which differentiates India with China. And another thing which is I think very important, that both should collaborate. But I think Professor Pandey and Professor Singh has been very extremely did not miss the word in saying that the China is probably not supporting India. China is doing this, and if you look into India. Can you listen to my voice? Any problem?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay. India is the largest functional democracy, where China is an autocracy. So that is the basic difference now which has emerged. And if you see the, India is not only a democracy and China's autocracy, it. China has been a big monarchy. I think that you know about it. And when you talk to the autocracy kind of a thing, I think a few years back, in China, almost 10,000 people were slaughtered at the Tiananmen Square. So that is the kind of the autocracy that China has got, and I think India would never, absolutely unimaginable in India. China, even, the information systems remain extremely, scrutinized by the government, which I think not the case in India. So a lot of things, but I think let's go. Very importantly is, if you look, is the India has emerged recently as the world's largest growing economy or the fastest growing economy. And I think the whole world need to learn in the challenging times. So I think let me focus on India, China economic. India has also, demonstrated, I think I have written multiple newspapers on this, the non-alignedness in the multipolar world. Now, if you see today, earlier, post-World War is, anyway, we human beings, we have a tendency to fight. समझ गए आप? हम लड़ते हैं. सबसे पहले क्या है कि we start fighting in our home. First we start fighting with our brother, sister, father, mother. फिर कोई बचता है तो हम पड़ोसी से लड़ना शुरू कर देते हैं. फिर हम गांव वालों से लड़ते हैं. फिर हम जाति बेजाति में लड़ते हैं. फिर हम धर्म से लड़ते हैं, देश से लड़ते हैं. तो भगवान ने इंसान को ऐसा बनाया, हम लड़ते हैं. Now after post World War, before, I think what Professor Singh has talked about is, Germany wanted to be an imperial power, and Japan, collaborated with them to be imperial power in Asia. Taiwan, which was called as a Formosa at that point of a time, at the time of the Second World War. So Japanese forces, I think, occupied whole of Southeast Asia, including Korea, Indonesia, Taiwan, and probably half of China. ऊपर से चाइना के ऊपर जो है रशिया वाज अटैकिंग, एंड हियर इन द हिटलर वांटेड टू हिटलर आई थिंक कैप्चर्ड ऑलमोस्ट ऑल ऑफ यूरोप एक्सेप्ट ब्रिटेन, एंड हिटलर्स फोर्सेस केम 60 किलोमीटर्स फ्रॉम मॉस्को. तो हिटलर को ऐसा लगता था कि मॉस्को को तो हम जो है ना 2 महीने में जीत जाएंगे. somehow some cold came and he could not, and the whole world is a different. After that there was a the Cold War, wherein the America and Russia, which collided in the Second World War against Germany and Japan, came together. So Cold World War, so two polar, and now it's a multipolar world. Now, if you see the present situation in the world is, there is a lot of economic tensions and a political strategic tensions between China and America. They, on the issues of Taiwan, there are trade tensions between America and China. There are tensions between Europe and America. There is a tension within Europe between NATO and Russia. There is a tension between Australia and China on trade, as well as South China Sea. So I think today's world is full of tensions. Anyway, tension is a part of life, and therefore we need psychologists. But what we say is, rather than a bipolar world, today we are living in a multipolar world, and India incidentally has demonstrated its its capability to remain a trusted nation and a trusted partner. And if you see, the India's international diplomacy has come a long way, wherein I think enemies of the enemies have started trusting us. You have seen India's G20 summits. India provided a forum to the fighting countries, including Russia, including America, China, Pakistan, any country. They can come to India and they can they can accuse each other. So I think that is the credibility we have established. India, incidentally, if you see now, I think it was a bit 3-4 months dated, statement by Kristalina Georgieva, who is MD of the IMF, that India is the brightest spot in the dark global horizon. And I think this stands, I think, more, relevant today, after passage of, I think, 6 months of the time. And if you see, this was a top, the publication which came in Spanish daily was the today is the time of the Indian economy. And I tell you how India is doing better than China. And if you see why, the India's growing economic potential is fascinating the business across the world to target India. If you see, because of so many political tensions between China and the other countries, you are aware of that. In the COVID time, when the whole Chinese economy came into a standstill because of their zero COVID policy, how the economy has absolutely slumped in China. India is one which I think kept running. And not only, I think your India not only survived, but India thrived when no country could thrive. Very important, I think so far you have been hearing that India is the second largest populated country on the earth, but I think we have overtaken China now. Now India has become the most populated country, I think the last month, and now I think there is no going back that India would remain the most populated country on the earth with, I think, a population greater than China. So I think India cannot be taken lightly, number one. And please understand, I think those who are in the policy making, the India's growth in population has not been achieved by any of the government incentives, but India achieved this higher population by the entrepreneurship of the individual people. So one thing that you need to learn from India's population growth is the entrepreneurship skill in this country is absolutely amazing and unstoppable in time to come. And I think everybody was criticizing, everybody was praising China's one child policy. I'll tell you the consequences of the one child policy. And I think the most of the people, I think, I'm not very sure that how many of you know about it. India's population have already started, absolutely now has become a stable. And I think if it will grow, because in the younger generation, the new, the people from 0 to 5 years of age, the fertility rate has gone, below 2.1, which is below the replacement level. Now, if you see in 2021, with this population growth, I think India is not the largest populated country, but we are going to be 1.5 size than China. Anyway, Nigeria would increase to a much larger size if you see, and Nigeria's population would equal to the population of the whole of Africa now. The population of Africa's 54 countries today is 1.1 billion. Anyway, that is much less than India, and one country. So I think India is great. Now, I think if you see this thing, I think you need to understand it is not only the population, but what is very important is the demographics. Now, if you see the fertility rate is in India has already, declined. This red graph is less than 2, the 2.1. And with this fertility rate, the fertility rate is, number of children per woman. And now with this fertility rate, the population is going and life expectancy is increasing. What is very important here is, please look into my graph number 2, which talks of the India is at the top. Now, every country, the working age population is declining, but India, the working age population remains still the demographic dividend. When we talk of the demographic dividend, Chinese demographic dividend, which I think China enjoys so far, is absolutely going to disseminate by 2031, but India is going to have this demographic dividend for next 24 years, that is 2055. So what is very important is, I think there are brighter days, with India. Now China is realizing, I do not know what the policy was. First, they say don't have children. If you have children, there were so many punishment. Now you say you have children. The whole world, you say in Europe, whole of Europe, Japan's population is declining by way of 3 lakh people every year. Every country want to have more children. And please don't be surprised, in next 5 years, the government of India gives you incentive to produce more children, because we require working age population. And I think, the population in India is declining much faster. I think in this part of the country, in Kerala, the fertility rate has already come to 1.4, 1.6, which is much below the replacement rate. So that is, I think, extremely important that I think you need to understand in population. I think this is one thing as on date. 2 things is the literacy rate in China is very high. The second thing is gender balance. Gender balance in China is better than India. Anyway, China also has got a preference for a male child. Male child preferences across the world, no problem. And I think the last point is the only thing that you need to understand. Today in China, people below 30%, 30 years of age is 34%, but India 52%. And I think, it's a advantage for us. So what we call is a blessings in disguise. So these people for next 30 years, will keep on giving the, hello. Okay. Now, if you see the 2023, India is the fastest, projected to be the fastest growing economy in the current year, much ahead of China. China is 5.2, India is 5.9, UK would disseminate by 0.3%, Germany 0.1%, France by 0.7. So if you look into, I think India is the brightest spot, and what I told you is much brighter, which we look today. This is IMF data. Professor has not cooked the data at his home. I always use the international data. If you see, but because of the size of the Chinese economy, despite India's size being much lower in terms of the total economy, India is going to contribute in 2023, the growth to the world economy about 15%. So that's very, very credible. Very, very credible. India is going to give the growth which the whole of the Europe is not going, the Western Hemisphere. The growth of Europe is 7%, half that of India. America, all of America, North, South, all combined, the growth is 13%. And therefore, I think I can say with conviction that the time has come for India, and I'm sure that you know it. And if you see, I think this also talks about the growth, wherein the Chinese, India is going to give you the second highest growth in the whole world. One thing is, I think, you also need to understand is that, the 20 largest economies by 2030, I think India is going to be the third largest economy with 6.6 trillion, given the present geopolitical situation in the world. Anyway, behind China, because, China already, I'll tell you in the next figures that how China has gone up, but I think we are on a very, very sound footing. I'll tell you how. If you see that, India is home to, India is the home to the second most number of startups, after America. We have got, if you look into the China, the total number of a startup is 637. India has got a startups of 15,000. And I think I'm so happy to tell you that probably I stay in Bangalore. Bangalore is the 5th most intelligent city on the whole earth, and the remaining 4th remaining only in America and no in China. And therefore, if you, and the startup kind of a thing, which I'm very sure the India also, the Prime Minister came up with, there's a startup India, stand up in India. And I think we have created an ecosystem, which I think other countries could not create. And this is by way of the startups, how India can, overtake China. If you see the number of unicorns, if you look into the number of unicorns, India ages over China in terms of the unicorn in H1 of the 22-23. We produced, 14 unicorns, China produced only 11. So what we call is unicorns is the billionaire company which the startups become. So, the trend shows the kind of the ecosystem which India has created is absolutely unprecedented and unstoppable. Whatever this professor says, I'll tell you everything based on data. You have a right to, discard whatever I say. You have a right to argue with me on anything, but whatever I say, I tell you on the basis of Bengaluru, 6th largest capital on the whole earth in terms of the unicorns. And I'm very happy that I'm in Bangalore, but anyway, we will very soon take up, busy in terms of the startup. Next. Okay. Now, if you see that, the top, e-tailing, the retailing by the e-commerce, India had the largest growth on e-tailer retailing. If you look into the digital integration of the economy, we have leapfrogged all countries. पूरी दुनिया में आपको ऐसा कहीं नहीं मिलेगा जहां भिखारी भी पेटीएम पे 5 रुपए की भीख मांगता हो. ठेले वाला, खोमचे वाला, रसमलाई वाला, भुट्टे वाला, वो आपसे पेटीएम पे लेता है. पूरी दुनिया में कहीं नहीं मिलेगा. And this is the ecosystem now the whole earth want to copy from India. They are sending their experts that how India can do. अरे आप जीडीपी वीडीपी में आप जब इकोनॉमिक्स के डेटा देखते हैं तो हम बहुत गरीब देश हैं. आपका जीडीपी चाइना की बजाय बहुत कम है, कई देशों की बजाय. But if you look into the digital integration, we have done much better than any other country. And the retailing in terms of the e-commerce, I think India tops in terms of the sales growth. And I think India is unstoppable. One thing I think I need to tell you that I think the whole world need to understand. Nowadays I'm sure you must be listening to Pakistan TV. I listen them every day. So whatever is happening, only thing is India is home to the second largest Muslim population with 17% of the population. Indonesia is number one. But I think in next 20-25 years, India is going to, or even less, I think 25 is in next 7-8 years, India is going to overtake Pakistan in terms of the Muslim population, accounting for 11.2%. So India is going to be the home to the largest number of Muslim population on the earth. And this absolutely indicate the inclusiveness of the Indian society you will find nowhere. And if you go to any Islamic countries, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Syria, Sudan, any country, I think India is more stable. Anyway, I made this preparation for, for experts coming from Pakistan to fight with them in an American presentation. And I told them that Indian Muslims are not only more prosperous, they are more inclusive, and the growth of the India with almost 18% of the population of the Muslims has been absolutely with inclusive, and the way we are going is going to be the largest Islamic country. So this is another. China does not have this diversity. China does not have one thing. This distinguishes India from China. China, you need to know Chinese. Younger generation knows English, little English, some English. India, India, even if 10% of our population, which is a very conservative estimate, realistically 20%, speak English or knows English, India is home to the double the number of English speakers than United Kingdom has got. UK की population क्या है? 6.5 crore. India के अंदर 1.5 crore tells to 14 crore people knows English better. Come to Bangalore someday, my driver speaks better English than deputy registrar in your university. I can give you in writing. Please come to Bangalore, come to Chennai, come to Trivandrum. And I wish that each of you work to the diverse parts, like Professor Singh and Professor Pandey have got experience to work in Northeast, which is very different. Sir, आपके मणिपुर में क्या हो रहा है आप देखिए आजकल, आपको तो ज्यादा पता है. Incidentally, now my student has been replaced as the chief secretary in Manipur. He did his PhD from IFT. If you look into the milk production, India is absolutely unstoppable. And if you see China, where is the Chinese milk production and where is the India's milk production? No comparison. If you see, I think again India is poised to outperform all countries. In next it is 2030 data which I think we have given. In next in next 10 years, in terms of the size says about the total milk production, in terms of productivity and production, in China is nowhere. देखिए कहाँ China है, कहाँ हम है. And I will try to tell you here that how India is superior. भारत का रहने वाला हूँ, भारत की बात बताता हूँ. So my whole presentation is focused that what are the areas where we can. आपको शायद पता नहीं है, बहुत कम लोग जानते हैं कि चाइना में दूध पीना उन्होंने 50 साल पहले ही शुरू किया. उसके पहले they did not know that milk can be something that you consume. वो तो गाय को मार के खा जाते थे. So I don't know how many of you know about it. People with largest number of allergy with the milk protein lactose intolerance is in China. वो लोग दूध नहीं पी सकते. अरे हम तो जनरेशन से दूध पीते हैं. हिंदुस्तान पूरी दुनिया में ऐसा देश है जहां कम से कम रिटर्न हिस्ट्री में 3000 ईयर्स से हम दूध पीते आए. यूरोप में they started taking milk maybe 600-700 years back. America they have started taking milk only 400 years back. India is the only country where we take milk from generations. और दूध के अंदर because I have done the a World Bank project for developing the India's export strategy for 2030. I traveled whole of Europe, America, Australia, Northeast Asia, everywhere about the milk. So I think I visited. So India is absolutely unstoppable. India accounts for 23-24% of the world milk production. India's milk production in 2001 was 11%. 11% to 23%. आप देखिए पूरी दुनिया में ऐसा आपको नहीं मिलेगा. But the problem is हम हमारा दूध यूरोप में एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते. Anyway, वो नॉन टैरिफ बैरियर I have discussed and I write on that, so we discuss later. But India is unstoppable. Now, if you see next 10 years, the world green is India. The world dairy demand in the whole world is going to come only and only from India in terms of the milk in all time to come. Even the cereal demand, except for sub-Saharan Africa, is going to come from India. And therefore, India, it is not only the population. With population, the increasing capability of the people is this country, which drives the demand. Now, what are the economic challenges that we have with China? So some comparison I'll tell you. One thing that I think we need to understand is that despite, after 90s, China, China was more rural before 90s. I think there was other data which shows that India's total income before 1980s was less than, total GDP before 1980s of China was less than India. Before 1991, China's per capita income was less than India. It increased after that. But after that, if you see, China has got a lot of urbanization which has happened. It's good. Now 60%. India is less. But at the same time, let me tell you one thing is that all urbanization is not good as well. So I think our Abdul Kalam came out with the concept as the Pura, providing urban facilities in the rural area. Just go to Kerala, travel to Kerala, every village, every house, because Kerala, they don't have a problem like Uttar Pradesh of dacoity and theft and all that. So you can live in the villages, and in those villages, they have got the facility which the urban areas in rest of the India has got. So this is one. And I think the next is, one thing is very, I think the manufacturing GDP in China is almost, anyway, in the last few years have come down because it has gone to services sector. But if you see the China, the manufacturing GDP was 30 to 33% about a decade ago. Now also 26, 27%. But India's manufacturing GDP remains 13, 14% is the big problem. So I think this is something which I think I'm sure that, we need to look into. So job creation, today the job creation in India starts within the services sector. Farming sector remains the key job creator in India. Services sector another, but manufacturing is another thing that I think in India need to focus. Abhi isme bahut sari schemes I think we'll discuss later. These things also you can see, how the China, I was telling you why India is good, but now please see how China is also good. Electricity access, one thing which this government has done is wonderful electricity access to almost all the people, which was not available in this country. India, I think I wrote a case study with the long back 8-9, which got awarded by London Business School, that India is home to the largest number of people without electricity. And even now it remains home to that. Now, if you see, the air carrier departures, port traffic, everything, I think China is good, and I think we need to capture. And if you see that, this budget, India is spending $10 billion for infrastructure development, and therefore, while I was covering the live budget, I was always appreciative of this particular step. Now, if you see, very importantly is, the female labor force in China is 45, 46%. But India, very unfortunately, the female labor force very rapidly fell, from maybe 26, 27% to, coming down to 10, 12%. I think we need to identify the reasons of the gender diversity. And I think in case we fail to do so, we are losing at least 50% of the, human power in India. I'm not calling it a manpower, but human power consists of the manpower and the woman power. And the India is, missing the woman power. So this is an area of absolutely top priority that the country should look into. I'm so happy to see so many, great professors being here. Induji is there, Prabhaji is there, Sangeeta is there. Investment and trade, let me focus and complete, immediately. I think, FDI. Now, if you see FDI, India is the China's FDI in 2021 was 334 billion US dollar. India was 452. India's FDI in 22 increased, but it is much below what we already had in 2020. China's declined, I think, much faster than India in the last, in the last year. That was 2022, and that was, primarily because of two things that I think, each of the slide which I'm showing is area of research that I think you can plan for your doctoral program. Is because of zero COVID policy, complete shutdown of the industry, and another thing is the trade, the tensions between between the Ukraine and Russia, wherein China is considered to favor absolutely the Russia, wherein the Western powers favored Ukraine, and more importantly is China's growing economic dominance. And every country, including India, is facing the trade deficit, and United States of America is probably the worst affected. And therefore, America is making use of every trade policy instrument to prevent the goods coming from China. So I think I need to be a bit quick to complete in time. But kindly tell me if you want me to stop, I'll stop immediately. देखिए, very importantly, पांडे साहब ने बहुत अच्छी जगह बताया कि हमारा ट्रेड जो है ना $115 billion का हो गया. So this year, I think the trade data totally is absolutely 114 billion US dollar. Absolutely right. But I think what you need to understand is कि भैया हम एक्सपोर्ट तो $15 billion का करते हैं, इंपोर्ट $99 billion का करते हैं, एक्सपोर्ट घटा है, इंपोर्ट बढ़ा है, आपका ट्रेड डेफिसिट बढ़ गया. एंड इफ यू गो टू द, आई एम श्योर दैट यू मस्ट बी टीचिंग द स्टूडेंट द मार्केटलिस्टिक थ्योरीज ऑफ ट्रेड व्हिच सेज a country should export more and the country should import less. And what we call as a neo mercantilism theory says is, the mercantilism call for the gold, but the neo mercantilism call for the trade deficit, and we are absolutely worried about the growing trade deficit with China. Very interestingly, I think what we need to understand in growing trade deficit and the growing import with China is, आपने देखा कि मतलब 2020 से जब से वो what Professor Singh was talking of, China, Galwan Valley के अंदर we had a lot of fight on the this thing. तो हमने दो तरह का कहा भाई, एक तो मेक इन इंडिया हमने कहा, फिर हमने कहा कि क्या बाइकॉट चाइनीज गुड्स. सो डिस्पाइट ऑफ बाइकॉटिंग चाइनीज गुड्स, if the imports are increasing, so I think it calls for introspection, on the part of the policymakers and probably each one of us, that why we could not, reduce the Chinese imports. And more importantly is, if you see, I think the next slide, I think I tell you that India's exports declined more. Now look, India's dependence on total import declined from 15 to 12, but आपका ये export तो half हो गया. 3%, from 7% share in the India's total export, the export में आपका share 3% हो गया, less than half in 2 years. But it did not decrease for the import. So I think this is a very, very serious data. It requires a very, very serious debate. And that I'm very sure that, once you go back, kindly do some research on this and, focus on some research in your university or the institute. And very importantly, अब देखिए, मैं वो बताता हूँ फिर चाइना का. This is again talks of the trade balance. If you look into trade balance, आपका 49 से 83 हो गया, घटता चला गया with these trade data. And I think it's a matter of absolutely serious concern for all of us. Okay, so now I think I need to sum up now. So thank you so much. With this, I think मेरे पास एक मैसेज आ गया है, क्योंकि प्रोफेसर कभी खत्म नहीं करता है. I am so grateful, Asthana साहब, for your giving me and this great opportunity for sharing, and please come. So I think I've given you one thing is that India's increasing trade deficit despite increasing trade. It is important that you increase the trade, but what to increase is India has become absolutely dependent even for its pharmaceutical. Paracetamol चाहिए 98%, उसका API चाइना से इंपोर्ट होता है. India face trouble. आप देखिए हमको क्या ट्रबल हुई, गाड़ी में कार मैन्युफैक्चर हमको रोकना पड़ा क्योंकि सेमीकंडक्टर्स आना बंद हो गए. हमको मतलब pharmaceutical, India is considered to pharmacy of the earth. We could not do it because China से वो सस्ता माल आ रहा था. You know, again going to the theory of the comparative advantage, और हमारी pharma industry को down करना पड़ा because of that. So somehow मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि the theory of आत्मनिर्भरता would always remain, and what we call as a theory of self-reliance is not only to India, but Donald Trump said the America first. In WEF, I was covering, live with when our Prime Minister visited. Donald Trump said, "I am not the president of the whole world. I am president of America. So America first." Now, anyway, Modi ji said that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is a different thing. But the protectionistic theory, if you see in United Kingdom, 3 of the finance ministers changed, 3 of the prime ministers changed in a short time, and it all happened because of the economic mayhem. So it's extremely important, to understand, the challenges to the economy, and more importantly is, the challenges being posed by China. So I'm highly grateful to Professor Asthana Saab, Professor Tomar Saab, that, you're considering my request to host this, extremely important seminar on a topic of my interest, India, China, challenges and opportunities. Thank you so much. Namaskara and tumba dhanyavad gadu. To you, sir. Thank you. Namaskar.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Great presentation. Wonderful, great presentation, sir. Your address has been highly informative and valuable. You discussed contemporary economic issues, ancient civilizations, and compared India and China with focus on India's growing economic potential, and India is going to be world's fastest growing economy. You also discussed the points where China is better than India. It was a real pleasure to listen to you, sir. A real thought-provoking address with relevant data, making us all feel proud to be an India. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Acha, thank you so much, Sangeeta ji. There is one comment in the boxes from Dr. Prabha, and I think it's an excellent comment. She says that is absolutely perfect, which I discuss on the different forums on the GDP data, because she says the work done by the woman is absolutely the household work, and it does not come into absolutely your GDP data. So I think that is another issue of topic that we can discuss separately, that why GDP data does not, say if a wife is serving to the husband or the children in the home, it does not add to the GDP. But in Thailand, if a prostitute is working, it adds 3% of the total country's GDP. If a woman serves in a hotel, or woman, teaches, or she does any work, that attribute to say 40%, and that is absolutely right. So GDP data is absolutely not representative of the happiness and all that. So I think you are absolutely right. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution, Dr. Prabha. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The next luminary present today with us is profound academician and distinguished scholar in economics. He is writer, editor, advisor, motivational speaker with 30 years of teaching and research experience in Asia, Pacific, Africa, and European continents. Sir is currently working as Professor of Economics at DUT Business School, Faculty of Management Sciences, Durban University of Technology, Durban, South Africa. He has been lauded with many awards and prizes like Best Researcher Award 2022, Man of the Year 2012, Best Researcher Award 2012. The list of his credentials is very extensive, so I am cutting it short and solicit him courteously to illuminate us. Professor Ravindra Raina, sir. Please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a proud privilege for me to be part of this conclave. organized by the Indian Economic Association. I would like to thank the president of the association, Professor Ghanshyam Singh ji, and the Secretary General, Professor Asthana ji, and Professor A.K. Tomar ji, and Sangeeta ji. Thanks for that kind introduction, and all other colleagues, Prabha ji, and I also would like to acknowledge the previous speakers. Professor Pandey ji was speaking a lot about Indo-China relationships, and Professor Rakesh Mohan ji gave us a comprehensive picture of Indo-China in different angles, not only the economic, but also in the cultural and the trade, and in different directions he looked at. I think in the interest of time, I got a lot to speak. I don't use PowerPoints normally, but my mind is the PowerPoint. So, I just would like to touch upon some of the important aspects here. And let me take you to the historical economic history of the world, and then touching these two important countries, Indo and China. If you look at the book that was written by one of the great economists, and 2000 years of economic history. And so if that history says clearly that, as we all know that, ladies and gentlemen, the largest economy in the world is America, which contributes about 25% of the global GDP to this, and that is about $24 trillion contributed by America alone. But prior to America, which was the largest economy in the world? And the answer would be obviously is none other than our beloved country, India. At one stage, historically, India was contributing 40% of the total income of this world. From 40%, we dropped it down to 25%. From 25%, we dropped it down to 16%, even a little more than 100 years in. And when India got independence in 1947, we are still contributing 4% to the global income. And now we are contributing less than 3%. So from 40% to 3%, we drop it down. And in between, what happened is China, our neighbor, and they also equally contributing substantial amount of income to this global economy. And China, India, for the last 1800 years, they've been the largest economies in the whole world, actually. And the world forgotten that the India, China is not playing the important role in the global economy, global politics, global diplomacy today, but they've been playing historically for many centuries. So if we look at even 1800 specific economic history data, in 1800, we were contributing about 24%, whereas China was contributing about 22.5%. And so that shows that India, China were the largest economies in the world, where they were, in many occasions, they were contributing almost 50% of the global income in this world. That is the important point I would like to connect here. And if we look at the data around 1800, and the so-called developed countries that we looked at today, America and UK, one of the largest economies, or top 10 economies in the world, they were contributing less than 2%, two countries together. When we are contributing, China, India were contributing 23, 24%, and they were contributing only 2%. So starting from 1871, ladies and gentlemen, America is the only country in the world for the last more than 150 years, it became the largest economy in the whole world. And we know the story. I'm not going to go to the details of American, how they come up that stage and what is happening in the global politics and global global economy and global conflicts. I'm not going to touch upon. So now our topic here is that Indo-China, we are historically a powerful economic players. And unfortunately, even if we look at China and India, the independence, we got probably about 2 years before when China got independence. We got independence in 1947, and China got independence in 1949. But doesn't matter whether they are 2 years, younger to us in terms of independence. But what had happened actually for the past 1950 until recently, until 2022, China was the largest populated country in the whole world. And India has taken over. All our colleagues have shown some of the data. So for the last 70 years down the line, ladies and gentlemen, China was the largest populated country, and now India is the largest populated country, obviously, with little more than 5 million population, that we are greater than China. We may feel proud of it, but anyway, it is also a topic of debate. I'm not going to touch that. Now, if we look at the data from 1950 to 1990, India and China, although we have a lot of differences geographically, China is 3 times bigger than India, and China is about 9.6 million square kilometers land. I mean, that is a massive amount of land, whereas India is only less than 3 million square kilometers land. So that shows that China is 3 times bigger than India in terms of area size. In terms of population, we are always walking side by side with little deviations here and there. Sometimes China was about 25, 30 million more than us, and now we are 5 million more than them, and so on. Of course, the China population, Hong Kong and Macau, we cannot take into account. If we take those two, take into account, China still remains the largely populated country, and now we leave this matter. The second aspect I would like to touch upon here, ladies and gentlemen. So 1950 until 1990. Sometimes Indian economy is a little bit better than them, and most cases, Chinese economy is better than us. Specifically, if you look at the statistics in 1978, when China embarked on economic reform strategies, and the total income of China was about $150 billion. And when you come to 1990, about 33 years ago down the line, Chinese income grew from 150 billions to 313 billions. Whereas Indian economy, we grew up sometime maybe about in 70s, we were about 50, 60 billions. And from there, we grew up to about 297 billions. So the difference between China and India is only roughly about $16 billion. So China is ahead of us by $16 billion. Imagine. Now from 1990 until now, China became the largest manufacturing country in the whole world. As a result of that, China could able to lift 800 million people out of poverty. So starting from 1978 until recently, about 2018 or so, China is the only country in the world could able to lift 800 million people out of poverty. Of course, India also does its best. And for the past independence, for the past 70, 74 years of Indian independence, we could also able to kick out about 400 million people out of poverty. So that is a plus minus half of what China has done. Now, in between, what the Chinese have aggressively has done, America was the largest producer of manufacturing commodities for many years, almost 100 years or so. And in between, Japan has taken over, and from Japan, China has taken over. And China aggressively producing goods and services, particularly for the past 3 decades. Eventually, so from $313 billion in 1990 to $19 trillion in 2023. So that is the fastest growth actually in the whole economic history one country could able to experience. At one stage, China was China was having a growth rate of 15% on an average. So if you look at 30 years economic growth, it's about 11%. If you look at almost 1978 to recently, the Chinese economic growth rate is 6%. And India also made a huge strides in terms of economic growth and development. But unfortunately, we couldn't able to compete with China. We do have our own limitations. As our colleagues mentioned that China is a particularly anarchy and an autocratic government where though they say socialist market economy, and we are the democratic country, and we are the largest democratic country in the world, whereas China is the largest socialistic country. So that is also one of the reasons why Chinese could able to aggressively progress, because there's only one policy that either you do or you will die. So that is the kind of concept. But we have got over freedom in our Indian subcontinent, and everybody become a king and everybody become a chief themselves. They don't listen to other fellow, probably either government or any other sector that we talk about. So eventually we are sailing through and we are walking like snail at times. And although we are the largest, fifth largest economy in the whole world, where our economy is close to 3 trillion American dollars, whereas Chinese trade surplus itself is about close to 5 trillion US dollars. So China has done its level best. That's why China is standing there, and we are still. But doesn't matter whether China is 3 times bigger than us in area size, but still the God, if we believe at all in God, God has bestowed the second best land in this world. India has got. America is number 1 in terms of having the best land, and India is number 2. China is number 3, actually. So the land we have, the human resources that we have, again, our colleagues mentioned that we are the people who speak best language, probably best English language, even when we compare with the probably United Kingdom and American and so on. But and our technocrats, particularly for the past few weeks, I was just watching some of the mass media that shows that, of course, we've been targeting 20th century, we've been targeting about oil. That is our principal resource, and oil is the main business. Now, 21st century, chips is the business. So microchips became one of the important point nowadays, where Taiwan is manufacturing almost 50% of the chips in the whole world. Although the designing is taking place in America and manufacturing is taking place in in Taiwan. So in terms of these chips, I would like to make a comparison here between China and India. We could able to make an income about, or our trade in terms of chips business is $27 billion, whereas China is making $192 billion. So we can see the difference here. So we can compare in so many aspects with China and India, but the bottom line is that the way that they are operating with command economic system, where we have a mixed economic system in our country, where we got the complete freedom. And there's no political freedom there, where we have got multiple party system here. And so all those factors also try to deviate us from the maybe becoming one of the leading economies. The glory that we had historically, that we lost. And if we would like to achieve that glory again in the near future, even in the coming 25, 30 years down the line, it would be very difficult for us. The forecast, economic forecast reveals that even by 2050, we could become only the 3rd largest economy. So meaning that we are only going to take out Germany and also Japan from the in between, because now in the ranking, America number 1, China number 2, Japan number 3, Germany number 4, and India number 5. So we could only, whatever in the coming 25 years time, although our target is to become the developed country in the whole world, but nonetheless, whatever we achieve with $6.6 trillion or even $10 trillion or $11 trillion, we still become the 3rd largest economy, where we were having the glory of 1st largest economy in the whole world. It is not about the economic, the size of the country. It's not about the size of the people, but it is the way that we operate. That's what made India as number 1 in the whole world. That is why historically, for the 5,000 years or so, India never tried to conquer the land of the country, whether it's the Pakistani like for the past 74, 75 years, or we have got other neighboring countries, China, and Nepal, Sri Lanka, and so on and so forth. But China on the other side, with aggressive policies that they had, they wanted to rule the world, just like what Germany and Italy and Japan were aiming to achieve. Now, with that aggressive policies, although our colleagues they also quoted some of the examples that Arunachal Pradesh, some of the areas they're trying to claim. It's not only Arunachal Pradesh of India, but also in Russia, there are certain areas, massive amount of areas of Russia, they are claiming that they part and parcel of in China. So anyway, those are the things I'm not going to touch upon in the interest of time. But what I would like to say is that maybe in another 3 to 4 minutes, I would like to conclude, Dr. Asthanaji, so there's a lot to talk about, but within this short span of period, I would like to state that we will remain as neighbors forever. There's nothing, nobody is going to change us. We've been the superpowers of this world, and we can still be the superpowers of this world. In terms of the population, in terms of the area size, China is the third largest country in the world, whereas India is the seventh largest country in the world. So we do have so many commonalities. In terms of the culture, also we do have so many commonalities. So we cannot able to fight with each other because we will be the permanent neighbors. We have to make a peace with each other. 1962 war, 1967 war, 1980s, we have so many conflicts here and there. Recently, in 2013 and 2020, also we got different disputes and conflicts. And we know, all our colleagues will know that more than 20 Indian soldiers were killed and many Chinese people were also killed. We cannot afford to fight among ourselves. When the world, particularly the third world economies, 2/3 of this world is looking at us, that we are the leaders and we should lead this world actually. So when we want to lead this world, we cannot fight among ourselves. We can not compete with each other, but we can always complement with each other. So therefore, although our colleagues mentioned that, ladies and gentlemen, that the trade of China-India, particularly for the past 5 years, 2018 to 2022, it grew up to $115 billion. That is a very significant amount actually. Where it was about $90 billion 5 years ago, we still grow 29%. That's a significant achievement actually in terms of trade development, despite of the challenges, political challenges that we are having with China. But nonetheless, of course, we begin to hate China nowadays, and Chinese also begin to hate us. We cannot hate each other. We cannot afford to hate each other. We should try to love each other. We should live with harmony. We should try to support each other so that we can regain the power that we had 200 years ago, that we can still regain it actually. China can be the largest economy. India can be still the second largest economy, provided if we support each other. And so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, there are tremendous opportunities for us to work with China. And therefore, the trade deficit is close to $70 billion actually. China is taking advantage over India's, consumer base actually. But China is getting advantage, and India also should get equal advantage. Therefore, the Make in India, Made in India, all those new strategies that are embarked by the government of India, we must take a control of that. We must also produce more commodities, and we should also try to fill the trade deficits. So the challenges are there, but the challenges should be converted as opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. And then we could able to work together hand in hand, and we can also support each other. So with these few words from my side, I'd like to thank Dr. Asthana ji and also Professor Sangeeta ji and Rakesh Mohan ji and all our colleagues who are sitting here. And it's this is my second seminar that I'm attending as one of the speakers. I think about 2 years ago, I was also part of this, but I would always look forward for such opportunities. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you, sir. Your address has been extremely informative and outstanding. We are highly grateful that you took time out of your busy schedule and honored us with your presence and talk. You compared Indian and Chinese economy with relevant data and discussed the reasons of more progress in China in comparison to India, most important of which is the type of government. And you stressed on the point that we Indians and Chinese can't afford to hate each other and we should work hand in hand. Wonderful, great, well organized presentations. Thank you, sir. The next dignitary present amongst us today is Honorable Shri Arun Kumar Tyagi, sir, from Dehradun. Sir has been working on this theme. He has done a lot of field work also on Indian-Chinese economic relations. He is committed to his mission with determined efforts. I solicit dignified Shri Arun Kumar Tyagi, sir, very courteously to present his views. Shri Arun Kumar Tyagi, sir.
Good evening to all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I personally thank Dr. A.K. Tomar and Dr. D.K. Asthana from Indian Economic Association to invite me to this very important topic of discussion of India-China economic relations, challenges and opportunities. I also thank our Chinese friends who are present there, that is Mr. Wang Peng, Zhang Suang, and Tang Hansen, to attend this dialogue on such a short notice. These three peoples are from the Economic and Technical Exchange Department from Embassy of China, Delhi. I would like to talk about the applied side of the economics, because whatever I wanted to say, my predecessor, Professor Ravinder Rana ji has said already. Without collaborations, without cooperation, we will not be able to achieve the goals of the economic and economics and the politics, and for the well-being of the both of the countries. We must learn entrepreneurship, innovation, leading to capital formation from the China, because they have done it very, very, very wonderfully in last 30 years. We must do cultural and educational exchanges for better understanding. And as economists, we all must try to create a positive environment for a better India and China cooperation. I would like to stop my things here and would invite all of you to collaborate in a very, very positive manner to achieve India economic opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your address has been very insightful, and we are really enthralled and impressed by the way you discussed the topic. Your main point of discussion was without collaboration and cooperation, we can't progress. And you focused on the cultural and educational exchanges. Very precise and valuable information was provided to us by you. Thank you so much, sir. This conclave has provided an apt platform for us all to grow both mentally and spiritually. I take extreme delight in inviting great intellectual Professor Jasbir Singh, sir, a man with distinct vision, Professor of Economics, Jammu University, Jammu, for his observations about the topic of today's conclave. Professor Jasbir Singh, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I don't know to whom to thank for this opportunity because this is a wonderful opportunity given to me. But where from it came, I don't know, because just it was being mentioned that I have to make observations. So it was very pleasant surprise for me as such. Particularly, I am thankful to Professor Ghanshyam Singh ji, Professor A.P. Pandey, and Dr. Asthana, and Dr. Tomar. I think uh, Professor Tomar must have suggested this, that it should be there, or Pandey Sahab, you must have suggested that. But it is wonderful for me, wonderful opportunity for me, though I was so hard pressed in some social engagements. But today's this conclave is really informative for me as such, because the two excellent speakers who detailed on the two sides, I would say, one, Dr. Rakesh Mohan Joshi ji, he gave a lucid presentation where he was just mentioning with all sort of figures and data that how India is progressing and how India is better off when we go for comparisons of these two countries. And the second one, particularly by Professor Ravinder Rena, he was trying to compare that China is better off when we compare, and he has taken the world perspective in that very particular sense. And dear friends, it becomes very difficult in such a situation where you are in between two slot wars or those researchers who are working on it. And very precise comment given by Professor Arun Kumar Tyagi. He has invited us to be more deliberating on this very particular topic. But when these two personalities are talking about different angles, it becomes very difficult in that way. But anyhow, what I have learned from it and how I can explain. But first of all, I would take this opportunity to explain that I would start my comment going back to the 60s, when we go through this Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay's presidential speech at Calicut as a president of Bharatiya Janata Sangh in December 1967. What we are talking today, he has mentioned there when he talked about in his speech the Peking Pindi patriots and Sino-Pak collision, where he mentioned in the Naxal movement, which is being encouraged by China in India just to destabilize some of the pockets. And then he talked about that we can't see in isolation so far as the Chinese relations are concerned, because China is now being with Pak. They are in collision to destabilize the political structure as well as the economy of the region of the country, that is India. So in that perspective, when we go far, I feel that any economic relation or any type of relationship with China, we can't discuss in isolation, because when we discuss with China or even Pak, we have to see China, Pakistan, and Russia. Because just it was being mentioned about, and I think Professor Dina was also mentioning, that when it comes to the, because I know that we can't change neighbors. Our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee also said that we can't change our neighbors, but we have to manage the situations, because we can't believe that we can work with China in isolation and we are taking care of Pakistan. But what about our own friend Russia? And recently you have seen, and initially also when you go through this presidential address as such, Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay has also warned that Soviet Russia may have an opportunity or inclination in a particular period of time towards China. And that is happening today. That when it came to Ukraine-Russian war, China took an opportunity. And though we are also with Russia, it is very good friend of ours, we are also working with that. But simultaneously, it is with China. When Russia-China relationships are very good, then what about our relationship with Russia? Because this very particular situation becomes like that. And the second thing, which just Professor Ravinder Rana was also mentioning on the global perspective, I may see that what is about Quad? Why we are having Quad? Just these Western countries, they want to tame China. They have involved us in between. Now the question arises that whether these geopolitical relations are to be the priority or the economic relations become priority. Definitely, the geopolitical has to be taken into consideration. We can't avoid, or we can't be in isolation that we are being kept away and Quad would be there, because we have to participate in that. And very rightly mentioned by Ravinder Rana that we have to concentrate so far as the Taiwan is concerned. And here I say, why not Tibet? Because today we are strong enough to say or to handle these very international situations and handle our neighbors. See the situation, how transformed in Pakistan, what is happening today. This is example, and this should be example for China, that if she goes on disturbing us on every front, we have a capacity to counter. And definitely when the political setup is being challenged or these misadventures are being challenged, then we can go for our economic relations as such. Then it was being that usually we talk about that whenever these some sort of ban is being there or some sort of slogan is being given, and why we are going for some sort of, say, economic relations with China. Yeah, so far as the awakening is concerned or awareness is concerned, what is happening between these two countries or the region, it becomes very important. But at the same time, when we see it very well, that China is a biggest partner here with our economic relation, whether they feel that we are in consumer market for them, or we feel that we are being able to import goods from there. So in that way, we can't avoid it. Where is the alternative? Is USA is going to give us without any cost or without any price rather? Even I claim here that even Russia would not like to. Today we are supporting them. They are in that way. But when it comes to the economic terms, because today we should not mind it. Dosti Bhaichara was there in pre-90s. No, with the commercialization, every country has its own, say, priority so far as the economic priority is concerned. For my own country, I feel that we have developed defense as well as the scientific, or the we are talking about satellites. We are developing our potential. Tomorrow, China may feel it that this aspect is being beneficial to them from the India. And recently we have seen that Apple iPhone, they have shifted their base from China to India. So it's very important that why don't we go for these expertise or technological developments, as it was being mentioned by Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi as such, that we are now going for startups. And we are being reckoned with at the international level, that earlier we were the, so far as even this Bangalore is even recognized for, that we were very good at cyber type of things and technology. Today we are taking startups. So we should not mind it. And one thing I think I would like to very politely disagree with Professor Ravinder Rana, that when you say that how we would go like that, and China is giant and China is big. China may be giant, but India is no more no elephant. So in that way, we can't say that if tomorrow China is going to, say, create more problems for us, we can find the alternative. We have guts so far as the political as well as the economic is concerned. So precisely we coming to the data. If you go through the data, we would find that definitely the exports of China are more than India. We are having the deficits in that way. And we know that why deficits from Indian side is we should concentrate on that, because the basket of commodities which we have kept for our export is still mostly primary. And in that way, we have to see that what sort of potential we can, and why China is restricting the pharmaceutical, which is we are having the potential. So we have to raise that very particular standard, and we have to go up for that. Very rightly, it has been pointed out that Digital India, very good slogan given by the Prime Minister Modi. And this Digital India, we should cash on it. Today, every nook and corner you may find that. When it goes to our own internal as well as the other transactions are concerned, it is not only the transaction, it gives the confidence to the general public. It gives to the confidence to the user, which becomes very, very important for the economic advancement is concerned. But I feel that so far as both of these countries are concerned, though they are having uh, different type of system, and I have experienced once I was in ILO conference in Geneva. I was in very particular session where we were discussing the agriculture situation. I was evaluating my own countries, and I started critical evaluation where I gave the positive points and the negative points. And my Chinese friends too were there in that session when their presentation was there in discussions. When it came to the government policies, they withdrew themselves. They said that we can't discuss anything about our government. I told them that see the beauty of my country and my political system. I am critically evaluating the policies. And this is the beauty of my system, that my government is ready to listen to that what can be improved upon here. And second thing I may just mention here, that so far as the Chinese data are concerned, who believes in that in effect? When you have that type of government where those who are ready to conceal everything, see what happened in COVID. So who believes that? They gave it. I personally don't believe that I don't say that every data, but many of the data presented by them on some of the aspects, I don't believe in that. Because when you have this type of restriction, this type of, say, all sort of restriction on that, who dare to give you the correct data? So they are enjoying data which is very much enjoyable to them as well. But definitely we may have some points of challenges between both of these countries, and particularly from Indian perspective. Just in the presentations, it has been mentioned that now we are the most populous country and the population in China is decreasing, whereby India is increasing, and we are expecting that by 2027, may China lose 8 million people, whereas India may add 75 million. Today, we are happy that we are young India. I am listening is to for last 10 or more years that we are young. But I am worried about what would happen after 2020, 2051 or 60. If you see the international data, you will find that our young population curve is going to slope downward. Where is the replacement? I think very rightly pointed out by Professor Rakesh Mohan that tomorrow you may find that government is giving incentive you to have more and more number of people because we need working hands. But my point is here, government should also take care of that. If they are encouraging the working hand, they have to, this added population has to be made technically aware or technically expert, so that they should be used as a technical resources in that way. Otherwise, after 2050 and 60 decade, no one would be there to replace this youth, as it is happening in China, that earlier they were being appreciated and now they are begging to the people that produce children. Even today child is produced, it may take 20 years to bring it to that level where he would be or she would be able to contribute to the economy. I know it very well that India's GDP growth will be over 2% higher than China, with what we expect in the on per annum. But in that way, it is to be, because it's not so easy mentioning about the figures, but our policymakers, planners, or even politicians, they should take care of this thing. I love the one very particular step of this present government. All the important ministries which are from the economics point of view, they have not appointed traditional politicians, but technocrats and experts, as it happened in all advanced countries, because they know how to manage, they know how to go for. So in that way, it is very important that we should go for that. And then one thing is more, which I fear from China's point of view, still they are having state-owned everything. But that is not in India. We are just opened up it. Even today, our defense pharmaceutical, everything is they're going towards even private competition as such. But what about if they are having this state-owned policies, and what they have chosen now just to dominate, they are investing in countries or the failed states, like they went for investing in the infrastructure and they are having their own roads in Pakistan, and they have gone up to Africa. If this is being done by the government, ultimately what would be the returns? And in long term, I don't feel, I don't agree that China's these investments are some investments which are having the positive returns in that way. And in that very particular situation, we may find that if it becomes challenged, China becomes challenged to the Western world, particularly as it is happening with USA, USA still has a potential to isolate them, because Russia is still engaged in war. What would be the economic repercussions that we have to see later on? We may also be get affected in that way. So in that way, my point only is for China, the state-owned initiatives all the time are not going to create any long-term growth processes. We have to go for the competitive market, and that cannot happen without the participation of private players in that very particular way. So I think all these things which are being discussed by our great presenters were very much very informative. But what was there I was working on, or I was thinking on, these are very particular points which we have to keep in mind. And I am of the opinion, in the present day situation, whatsoever may be the situation, whether we have any sort of war with China or disturbance with China, that has to be there, that is being there. But so far as the economic activity is concerned, somewhere until we find alternative, we have to keep these activities alive. Otherwise, still it reminded me of the words of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, that our own nation, this India, this Bharat Mata, is having all sort of resources which can fulfill all our requirements, not locally, but at the world level, if it is being followed through the local traditions, our heritage, because we ourselves are being driven away from our own foundations. अभी बात चल रही थी वासुदेव कुटुंबकम की बात प्राइम मिनिस्टर कह रहे. So earlier we were like that. You have also mentioned, Professor Reena, that our contribution to the world was the 40% in that way. So how it was being there? Because we could not, at present, we are not being able to introspect that why we have lost that very particular ground. My appeal and my comment as a student of economics is that we have to revisit that our own process, that if today from top we are trying to be politically strong, defense strong, everything strong, why don't we introspect and build up our local profiles so strong that it contributes to the economy? So I think that was from my side. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your observation has been very insightful and judicious. Thank you for the meaningful points you have put forward in your observation. You presented everything very nicely. And now I would request all the participants to please open their cameras so that a group photograph can be taken for publication. And sir, you focused that we can't change our neighbors, but we can manage, and various other discussions were also made by you, which were very interesting. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And now, amid us, we have an inspiring, multi-talented personality who believes in equality of action and integrity of intent. a lady with a golden heart, Professor Indu Vashne Madam, Principal SRDA Girls PG College, Hathras. Respected Madam has a long list of books, research papers to her credit. I very earnestly implore Honorable Madam to present her observations about the topic. Professor Indu Vashne Madam. Ma'am,
I think she's not here. I just call her. I just call her.
okay, sir. Okay, okay.
The photograph must be taken.
It's done,
I
sir.
once again request all the participants to please switch on their videos so that a group
I have-
photograph may be taken.
I have taken the photographs, ma'am.
Okay, 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 okay.
Take some more. Utilize the time.
Okay. I think ma'am is not there.
हेलो डॉक्टर साहब ज्वाइन कर लीजिए, आपको ऑब्जर्वेशन देना है, बोल रहा है आपके लिए। ओहो।
Sir, please unmute yourself. Asthana sir, please unmute yourself.
I am very sorry. I am on the way and my data have been exhausted. So it's not possible for me to contact you all. So I am sorry for today. Whenever next conclave will come, I'll definitely participate in that conclave and I'll meet all of you. Thank you so much and very sorry again from my side. Thank you.
Okay. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. After the successful organization of this conclave comes the time for bidding farewell to each other and expressing gratitude to the galaxy of intellectuals. For that, I would entreat Reverend Dr. D.K. Asthana sir, highly committed, devoted, enthusiastic General Secretary of Indian Economic Association, for vote of thanks, Dr. D.K. Asthana sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Arora ji. I am happy to have an opportunity to thank you all to learned people who are attended this conclave here. India-China economic relations challenges and the opportunity held under the banner of the Indian Economic Association today. First of all, I would like to pay my respect and the regards to Chief Speaker Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi sir, who delivered his views on very impressive and the thought-provoking way and spared time to join us. Professor Ravindra Anna, Professor of Economics, Durban University of Technology, he gives very clear indications to live together and work together also with the Chinas also. Our learned IAS President, Professor Ghanshyam Singh ji, spoke very well on the subject and showered his blessing to us. I thank him too. To our conference president, ex-Vice Chancellor, Manipur University, Professor A.P. Pandey sir, I am no worse to thank him. He is always with us in all the thick and thin. Thank you very much, sir. Professor Arun Kumar Tyagi, in very short speech and the very impressive manner, he had deep knowledge of the subject and the Indian-Chinese economic relations. And he asked for the 3 Chinese person also. On the next webinar or the next conclave, we will inviting them to discuss their view also. So thank you very much, Dr. Arun Kumar Tyagi, sir, for your impressive words. Dr. Indu Vashne, although he's in the way, he cannot speak us, but thank you for her also. And I have to thank Professor Sangeeta Arora ji, the moderator, SRDM College Hathras. She had done this conclave in a very good manner and a very prestigious one, and spoke the very good words. Dr. Monica Vashne of DS College, in charge technical section of Indian Economic Association. I thank her for her unconditional help and support. Dr. Praveen Sharma of Jaipur, Dr. Pratula Shiva, Dr. Anil Thakkar of Bihar, Dr. Neha Paliwal of Udaipur, Dr. Deepa A, Dr. Ramaya Rajan, and S. Devi. They are from the Kerala. Dr. Sri Raj from Kerala, Prabhat, Dr. Prabhat Kara from Kerala, Dr. Sulekha, Dr. Krishna Bajpayee from Tikaram College, Aligarh, the Madhavi Paliwal, Dr. Alka Kohli, Dr. Shivan Shah, Dr. Marutesh from Tamil Nadu, Shashi Jain from Jaipur, Dr. Arun Kanodia, Dr. Govind for IIMT Noida, Dr. Prabha, Dr. Jagdish ji from our Dr. Jagdish ji, he is from Allahabad. Dr. Anju Beniwal, Dr. Pawan Kumar, and Dr. Jaydev Naik ji, these all are presented, and all other presented here. I should say thanks to them. In the last but not the least, I thank from my core of my heart to all the intellectual personalities present in this conclave. But the best last thanks and the very important thanks goes to Dr. Professor A.K. Tomar, my mentor and the professor who is guide us in every step of this conclave. Thank you very much, you all. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you from my side. Thank you, sir, for giving such a nice vote of thanks. I implore Dr. Monica Vashne ma'am, highly cooperative and helpful coordinator, technical session support cell, to sing national anthem.
Please stand up in your place.
मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत
भारत
भाग्य
विधाता
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात
गुजरात
मराठा
मराठा
उत्कल विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना
हिमाचल यमुना
जलधि तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गण मंगल दायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय 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 हे भारत माता की भारत माता की जय वंदे मातरम
वंदे मातरम
Thank you so much.
With the permission of our president, conference president, this conclave will be declared closed. Thank you very much to join us. Thank you. Namaskar.